Hello, everyone, and welcome to Freedback Friday. I am your host, Craig DeLuz, on the rundown, coming to you from the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as you all know, I do not do this program by myself.
Hey, coming to you live from the East Coast here on the Friday edition of the Rundown. It's me, Mike Pinikowski. It's glad to be here with you today.
Mike Pinikowski. I thought you were about to say Mike Pentecostal.
No, listen, I went to the bank today, and that's what I got. I got Pinikowski, and I was like, sure, we'll go with that. Let's do it. As long as you deposit my check, you can call me whatever you want.
Yeah, for those of you who do not know, Mike Piwowarski
Yes.
actually pronounces his name however someone has pronounced his name that day. So needless to say, if you're confused as to how to spell his name, it's probably his fault.
Yeah, the top two this week have been, Pinatubo. We had Pinatubo this week. And then earlier in the week, I had a Kowalski. Again, didn't even start with the same letter. But that's my top two of the week.
That is hilarious. And then also, for those of you who do not know, I am both in front of and behind the camera. So if I seem like I am either not paying attention or I am slightly distracted, that's because, I'm trying to do two jobs at once.
And if I seem slightly distracted, it's because I'm coming to you live from the mobile Rundown studios this weekend.
The mobile Rundown studios. Where are you at today, sir?
I am at a major metropolitan airport in the lounge. Wait. Let me rephrase that.
Location.
Let me rephrase that. In the pilot lounge, not the drinking passenger lounge.
Oh, in the drinking pilot lounge?
No, the non-drinking pilot lounge. Not in the drinking passenger lounge.
Not in the drinking passenger lounge. Okay,
correct.
Lounge. Okay.
Correct.
All right. I was about to say, I'm hoping there's not a drinking pilot lounge.
There is, but that's for after work.
That's for after. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification. I very much appreciate that. I do.
We aim to please,
All right. So, hey, folks, for those of you who do not know, we are streaming on both Facebook and on YouTube. I will try to follow some of the YouTube comments, but quite honestly, I'm going to be focusing mainly today on the Facebook. So make sure you're inviting your friends right now. Invite them right now to be watching the show, because if they comment and they are the best commenter, they have the opportunity to win this handy-dandy prize. Mike, tell them what they could win.
This week they get on Freedback Friday, they get a 100% T7075 aluminum upper. I don't know if you can see this, Greg, but it now has custom pencil etching engravings. This one's from Gorilla.
All right, Mike, I'm going to need you to point that out to them one more time, because I think our sound was off a little bit there for a second. So Go ahead and tell them again.
This is a upper receiver made of T7075 aircraft grade aluminum for an AR receiver. This one just needs a little anodized finishing or some Cerakote, but you can tell the backwards written custom pencil etching engravings from Gorilla Machining. And then we also have similar 80% lower receiver paperweight from our good friends at Ghost. There's another classic pencil etching engravings for you.
Very, very nice. I am highly impressed with that particular product.
We had an artist do it, and then they got fired, so I finished it.
Oh, you finished it.
Well, they wanted to be paid, and I'm like, we don't do that here.
So,
we don't do that here.
Well, that's interesting. Okay. Well, there we go. Okay. Well, hey, let's go ahead and let's get into today's news. All right. Item number one on the agenda today has to do with Obamacare. For those of you who do not know, Obamacare went before actually, let me clarify. It did not actually go before the Supreme Court. In actuality, they wound up dismissing it, largely because they said that those who brought the case before them did not have standing, was a big part of the case. But the real interesting thing about Obamacare, about this particular decision, was twofold. Number one, it wasn't that they said, as the liberals would like to say, that healthcare is a right. What they basically said was they didn't believe that Obamacare was unconstitutional. But even that was not the big story. The big story was, if you recall, going back to the the last two judicial confirmation hearings for Amy Coney Barrett and Justice Kavanaugh. Well, they were both. It was both said that they were both evil, and that if they got put onto the Supreme Court, that Obamacare would be overturned, and they would just suck up to Trump and yada yada yada, and the world was coming to an end. Cats and dogs would love each other, and all of this. I mean, it was the absolute worst of the worst. And needless to say, two of the three judges appointed by Donald Trump, well, they actually wound up supporting the decision.
Yeah, listen, we say it all the time that liberal justices will not follow the rule of law. They follow the rule of passion, the rule of emotion, whereas conservative justices follow the rule of law. And that's what happened here. This went before the court. The court said, "Listen, everybody, you lack standing. There's nobody here that is being hurt by this now, since the penalty is gone." This is as if folks, if somebody sued to say, "Listen, 10 years ago we said, the sky's purple, and if you disagreed, it was $1,000, and then they said, you know what, we're going to drop the $1,000 fine, and now you're still suing because they're saying it's purple." And the judge said, "Nobody's getting hurt here. We're not wasting our time with this." And that's what's gone on. They said nobody had standing to bring this forward, and they used the rule of law. They did not use emotion. They were not impassioned because Obamacare was a violation of our core foundation. They said, "Hey, you listen, using the rule of law, it doesn't matter anymore, so we're dismissing this case." Ah, yes.
I've lost sound.
Keep talking. That's right. You've got sound. Wait. You lost your sound, so my sound's still good. So I could be talking about stuff like
I gotta fix it.
I could say stuff like, "Listen, Craig there is in California, if you know what I mean. He's in California, west of the Sierras, right?"
Okay,
I think
Mikey.
that's where you said you are.
Yeah, no, okay, Mikey. Yeah, I've cut you off. I now have my sound back. As you guys can see, this is an ongoing thing. We're working on it. We're working on trying to make this happen. Once again, it's always funny kind of being both in front of and behind the camera. But in the end, we are going to, in fact, make this work. But yeah, the thing is, and this is the hard part, is that justices on the left are always about they're always about instituting their form of justice, right?
Yeah.
They're more interested in what they believe to be right, as opposed to doing what a judge is supposed to do, which is interpret the law. And in this particular case, you had three judges. And it's, by the way, for those of you who want to come down on the new justices, even Clarence Thomas said, even though he hates and he loathes Obamacare, he has to agree with the constitutional argument that was made by Justice Breyer. It just, unfortunately, you can't call it unconstitutional. And therefore, if you want to get rid of it, you got to pass laws getting rid of it. And but that's how, like you said, that's how conservative justices do it.
Right. They refuse to legislate from the bench, and that's what the left wants to do. They want to legislate from the bench. They want to use opinion. They want to use hyperbole. They want to use everything. They accept the rule of law in the Constitution, and that's what conservative justices do: rule of law and the Constitution, and therefore they could not do anything with this. Nobody was being hurt by it. Nobody had standing, so they said, "All right, move along." Just like Judge Thomas said and Judge Breyer said, "You want to get rid of it? Pass a law that says it's no longer valid."
Yeah, it's unfortunate because it's one of those things where sometimes I feel like when it comes to the things that we want to see come from the court, like we're working with one hand tied behind our back. It's like we're playing a fair game and they are not. And then they accuse us of cheating.
Right, yeah, right. Yeah.
That just seems to be how it is. But anyway, once again, that is how it is. Moving right along for our next story. Now, in New York City,
New York City.
This is not New York City. Get a room. But in the state of New York, they've actually passed a law, and I believe Cuomo's going to sign it, that will allow people to sue firearms manufacturers if their product is used illegally, whether the individual has any contact with them or any relation to them or anything. Now, we all know that currently firearms manufacturers, as should most manufacturers, are protected from being sued if someone uses their product illegally, right? So in other words, you can't just sue someone unless their product is either defective, or you can sue them if they knowingly sell it to somebody who they know is going to commit a crime or should not be in possession of a firearm. But otherwise, they're protected from being sued. Well, the state of New York is saying, nah, 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 nah. I don't care if it's against federal law. We're going to do it and allow them to be sued anyway.
Yeah, again, New York, Cuomo, what more do we have to say about crooked politicians and not caring for the Constitution? You cannot pass a law that's in direct contradiction with the federal law. You could say we're no longer going to enforce a certain federal law like they're doing with the marijuana statutes, but you can't come out and say we're going to do the exact opposite of what the law says. We're going to change what the law is. It can't be done. You know, the Commerce and Arms Act is there for a reason. The makers are protected unless there's some sort of, like you said, an extreme defect in a firearm that caused an injury, or the manufacturer themselves knowingly broke the law as they distributed the firearm to disqualified people. Other than that, this law means nothing. It's feel-good legislation. It's going to take up times in the court. It's going to end up at federal appeals court somewhere and going to get tossed for being wholly unconstitutional.
Yes, it will. But in the meantime, in the meantime, excuse me, we are going to have to spend money. And when I say we, I mean people who support the Second Amendment are going to have to spend money to go to court and fight our own government. People in New York are going to have to spend the money to fight their own government in order to prove that this is unconstitutional. And now, mind you, I believe they'll win, and they'll eventually get their attorney fees back.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a long time. And by the way, the attorney fees that are going to be gotten back, that's our money too, or in this case, New Yorkers' money. It's kind of sad when you have to not only raise money to fight your government, and then you have to pay their lawyers' fees because, you're paying taxes. And then on top of it, if you lose, then I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just crazy, and it bugs the crap out of me.
And I understand, and we all end up paying in the long run, but this is just more of New York trying to do the thing. I can't tell you the number of times in the gun business I've been involved with certain things where New York has said, you can't do that. And I said, hold on. I'm in Florida, conducting a transaction in Florida with somebody legally allowed to purchase a firearm in Florida. In New York, if you don't like it, send down a hit squad and come get me, baby. Come on, try and bring me back up there. See what happens. I'm doing it. I'm not doing anything. Just because you passed a New York law, guess where your laws apply to? In your state boundary. All right.
Hey, Mikey, I just want to say Dave Wilcox says hello, as does Patrick Collins, who are both tuning in and watching the program. One is on YouTube. The other is on Facebook. I'll let y'all guess which is which. But hey, they're tuning in. I don't know if you know Dave, but we both know Patrick and are looking forward to seeing him coming up in August.
Yeah, I just want to point out to the both of them at this point, we still have our Freedback Friday items to give away. This is the 80% lower receiver, and this is the 100% upper receiver, which at this point, Craig, I've gotten stuck on my finger, and I'm probably going to have to get some lubricant to get it off of there. So
I can't take you anywhere, Mike.
Kind of embarrassing. Hold on, I could do this. Look, it looks great now, almost like it was planned, but it's on there. It's not coming off. It's
all right. Well, while Mikey gets that off, we're going to move on to the next story. Now, you guys might remember the McCluskeys, right? The McCluskeys were the folks there in St. Louis, Missouri, as the riots were taking place, as the protesters, the Black Lives Matter and Antifa protesters, broke through their gate or came through their gate into their community. They were on their lawn. They were being threatened, and they stood out in front of everybody and just made sure that they were armed and let folks know, don't mess with us. Don't mess with our home. Move right along. They basically had their firearms out in order to defend themselves. Now, we're not getting into, their tactical use of firearms, how they presented their firearms. That's not the point. The point was that they were standing on their property, defending their property in a lawful exercise. Well, they were taken to court, or they were arrested. They were charged with crimes, and it appears that there's been a plea deal. You want to talk a little bit about that plea deal, Mike?
Yeah, and listen, they faced a myriad of felony charges, and we all know this is crap. The district attorney there in St. Louis, she's about to lose her law license. She's up for review with the bar for some hinky stuff she did while there. She was elected after her little publicity stunt with the Michael Brown case down in Ferguson. And then just continued to stoke hate and discontent and violence and protests throughout that region. Well, listen, you got two high profile white lawyers that pulled some firearms on some protesters that were breaking property and vandalizing and coming towards their house. And you get the McCloskeys here, the poster children for "Get Off My Lawn." They come outside with a couple of later found out inoperable firearms, but they got charged with all these felonies. So this has been going on for about a year now. Well, they finally decided, you know what, we're going to take a little misdemeanor, pay a little fine. Oh, by the way, your fine is nothing. And Craig, I've always said, if we can solve crimes by paying fines, then the rich will never care about the crimes they commit. And that's what exactly this is an example of. You want to find the McCloskeys? These are multimillionaires. These are the top big lawyers in town. These fines mean nothing to them. They agreed to also let them have their probably about $1,400 worth of firearms. The two guns that were seized during the crime, they said you could keep. Again, that $1,400 to them is probably what he spends on lunch, every day, taking clients out.
But
these things, it means nothing.
But Mike, the problem is that you understand, and I tell you because I've seen this happen in California numerous times.
Yeah.
Generally, what they do is they overcharge.
Yes.
And then they turn around and then they offer a plea bargain. We had one guy who literally, in California, if you have a flash suppressor, I didn't say suppressor, I said flash suppressor on your AR, on your semi-automatic rifle, it then is considered to be an assault weapon.
Assault weapon.
It is now an assault weapon. You had an individual who was a former police officer, who was an FFL, and who was a competitive shooter, who was holding a firearm for somebody, actually contacted the California Department of Justice because they weren't sure exactly how to have it on their books because they didn't necessarily own it, but they were holding it for an individual.
Yes.
And DOJ asked them, well, can you send us pictures of the gun? Now, I would have never told him to send pictures, but he did. Right? He sent pictures. A few days later, four California DOJ agents show up and they say, we need to inspect the firearm. Right?
Yeah.
They wound up confiscating it. They held on to it. He didn't hear anything for 6 months until his attorney reached out to them.
Yep.
Right? Then next thing you know, he was being charged with felony possession of an assault weapon. They never actually, because they said they were going to test it to see if it was a flash suppressor. They never actually tested it.
Right.
But then they offered him a plea deal. They say, okay, tell you what, we'll drop the charges, but we're going to keep the firearm. And I'm telling you, numerous times this happens. This happens over and over again. They overcharge you, and then they lower the charges, and then they say, well, okay, but yeah, we're going to keep the firearms. This is an abuse of power. I don't care if it's only $1,400. For some people, that firearm that was confiscated, it may only be $1,400, but they don't have another $1,400 to get another gun.
Yeah, huge deal. I want to make sure I get the point across here that they were able to afford it. So for them, it was no big deal to make that decision. This gets this out of their hair.
Right.
It's absolutely a travesty that they're charged in the first place. It's overcharging. Again, it's just it's bad policy. It's bad law decision making. But that's what our state attorney is. She wanted this off her plate too. Don't get me wrong, Craig. She overcharged, and now Mr. McCloskey, he's going to be running for office there in state level office, if not senator from the great state of Missouri. So
as a matter of fact, he is. Now, by the way, Patrick asked, he wanted to know what felonious act they broke. It just seems like it was potential, but he just doesn't see it. And this is
I think they charged him with aggravated assault with a firearm. So threatening people with a firearm, depending on where you are, what jurisdiction you're in.
Right. And by the way, going back to David Wilcox, when going back to our previous story, he said we should start referring to gun makers as manufacturers of crime vaccines.
There we go. There you go.
Crime vaccines. Problem solved.
It'll end it for you right there. Exactly right. Yeah, the airborne lead virus. Yeah,
That was a good one, David. That was actually, David, an excellent comment. Okay, let's move on to our next story, shall we?
we shall.
All right, so now we're finding out that there was an individual who actually went throughout 2 states and basically shot 5 people. And clearly his shooting was racially motivated. He was targeting people of a specific race. Now, the interesting thing about this particular story is you didn't hear about it in the mainstream media. It wasn't all over. It wasn't on CNN. It wasn't on MSNBC. It wasn't on ABC, CBS News. It wasn't all over the front page of the New York Times or the LA Times. And there's a reason for that. That's because he was a black man who was targeting white men.
Yes.
And I just, once again, the story is first of all, the story is that I'm glad that they caught the guy, but the thing I don't understand is this is clearly a hate crime. It is clearly racially motivated. It is clearly feeds into the the stereotype. But why isn't it news? Is it because he's black and they were white?
Absolutely, Craig. Listen. In fact, they followed up with
cynical.
Yeah, they followed up with the media there, and they said, "Hey, how come you didn't report this? How come you didn't put this out?" Because the way they reported it was they were unclear on the mail. It was a mail with no further description. I said, "How come you did not give us any more information about the male who did the shooting?" And they said, "Oh, well, it's unclear as to what his descriptors may be, and we also did not want to upset the inner city." Like, oh, you don't know what color the person was, but you don't want to anger a black community. We understand completely. You racist hack. You're trying to again. Remember, control the media, control the message, control the message, control the masses. What they're trying to do. There's no crime here, folks. Nothing to see. Move along. Doesn't fit our narrative.
Yeah, well, and that's the reason why they have a hard time. Like I said, it's funny, and I've talked with people who've worked for AP, people who work for some of these stations, and the crazy thing is I'm like, they don't understand why people don't believe them, why people don't take them seriously. It's like, if you don't know enough to see the bias in what you write and what you put out, if you don't know enough to stop and think and look, am I biased? Am I really treating the story fairly? If you don't know enough, then there's no telling you anything.
Maybe it's my white privilege that doesn't let me see this, Craig. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. I haven't taken enough critical race theory classes to understand why this story is not important.
Exactly. Well, there you go. Clearly, it's really not important because of your proximity to whiteness.
Exactly right, and which is about that far away, right there. It's right there. My whiteness.
Well, now since you're in Florida, you're not quite as white as most,
That's
except
just
for probably
the
from
filters.
from here to like your knees.
It's the filters, Craig. It's just the filters.
It's just the filters.
Yeah. It's the filters. Yeah.
We're adding the color tones. We're adding the color tones in here.
Yeah.
And yes, you are right, David. It is agenda.
That's it.
Okay.
Gender agenda.
Okay, moving right along. Most mass shooters have undiagnosed psychiatric illnesses. This was a study out of Stanford. Now, so Stanford, once again, left-wing educational institution, wasn't always that way. But I primarily mentioned that because here it is, another study that points out that, guns are not the problem. When you get outside of the doctors, the anti-gun doctors who promote gun control, and you actually start getting people who study people, they start to then recognize and they start to look into that and recognize the fact that this is not a gun problem. This is a people problem. In this case, specifically, it's a mental health problem.
Craig, how many kids did you know in school growing up in your classes? I'm going to go back to grade school classes that were either hyperactive or didn't pay attention. And what was the usual course of treatment for them back then?
Oh, well, first of all, there was always one or two at least in a class. There's always one or two in a class.
Yep.
And back in the day, it would start with detention. Eventually, it would end up in paddling by the principal.
Wait, you can't detain my child. That's racist. You want to hit him? Oh my God, what is this? Are we slaves again? This is what we get now. That's why we can't do this now. Back then,
Right.
you got the belt, or you got the paddle is what you got for hyperactivity or could not pay attention. I can still hear my parents telling you, I'll give you something to pay attention to. And that's what you got. Now, it's not their fault. It's racist if you accuse the child. Oh, don't worry, we're going to pump them full of Ritalin. And that's what you get. That's where these kids are. These kids that were coddled. These kids that they pump full of Ritalin. It's all in their system. They're hepped up on the goofballs, Craig, and it's prescribed to them by the psychologists and psychiatrists because that's how they want to treat kids now.
Wow. So Patrick brought up a point. He was talking about suggesting that next week we mentioned the two 15-year-olds who shot a security guard at the most protected mall outside of D.C. The fact is that we have, and I've said this, if someone got mad, there was an article in the San Jose Mercury News, and we were talking about a shooting that took place here in California, and I said the problem is we don't have a gun violence problem, we have a violence problem. We have, for some reason, more people than in the past believe that when they are angry, when they are frustrated, when they are upset, when they feel slighted, when they feel hurt, that the appropriate way to handle it is to inflict violence on other people. Now, some of them choose to use firearms to inflict that violence, but the point is, it's not a gun thing, right? It's not a gun thing. It's a people thing. How do we address that? Whether it is kind of more psychological or mental health issues relating to depression, relating to bullying, relating to those sorts of things, right? Anger, or it is a serious psychiatric issue, or if it's gangs, or if it's drugs, or if it's just crime in general. All of those are people things, not gun things. Let's address those. And by the way, those are what's called root causes. Guns are not Guns are not a root cause. As I have said many times, I have laid all of my firearms out on the kitchen table. I have talked harshly to them. I have bullied them. I have even even opened up some alcohol, some bourbon, of course, because my guns are very cultured. I've opened up the alcohol and I've left it out for them all night. And guess what? No one got shot. So the guns are not causing violence, so therefore there's no such thing as gun violence.
It's amazing. And listen, we know the guns are the problem. How many times do we have to go over this? Listen, you get these whack jobs. If they can't get the gun, they take the car and they drive it up the sidewalks in New York City. We've seen. We get the knife attacks. We get the how many sword attacks. We saw a narwhal horn attack in London because the guns are gone. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. They're going to find an object to do the harm that they want. What we need to do, like you said, is deal with the problem. It's not the object; it's the individual.
Well, as David Wilcox said, always been the fool, not the tool.
There you go. Exactly right. Yep.
Exactly, David.
Yep.
Excellent comment. Excellent.
Looking good, David. I think I see your name written on one of these.
Excellent. Okay, hey, why don't we move on to our parting shot?
The parting shot.
You guys will love this one because it pretty much fits where justice is nowadays in this country. For those of you who do not remember, Mr. Eric Garland, who was a nominee by President Barack Obama for the Supreme Court, he did not get appointed. Thank you, Jesus. But now he is our Attorney General. So instead of interpreting the law, now he is, quote unquote, enforcing the law. But clearly, as demonstrated by this cartoon, he is not enforcing the law equally because, well, white supremacy is the number one threat of the homeland. Because guess what? If you're a Trump supporter, you are a white supremacist. If you're a conservative, you are a white supremacist. If you're a black conservative, you're a white supremacist. If you're a libertarian, you are a white supremacist. Gun owners. I'm a gun owner. What about liberal gun owners? I guess they are white supremacists as well.
White supremacists.
And people against critical race theory.
Yeah, all white supremacists. This is exactly what we've got going on. This guy is trying to do everything he can. This is the kind of legislation from the bench you would have gotten if he had been on the Supreme Court, and now you're getting it from your Attorney General's office. How much did Bill Barr piss off his own party because he refused to sway one way or the other, and he stayed right down the middle with the rule of law? And here you have his successor taking on everybody that happens to have a conservative ID.
Well, and what's interesting about it is not only is he taking on everyone the conservative ID, but clearly we have hundreds of hours of video, thousands, if not millions, of photos of individuals, of people, whether in particular from the BLM riots and from Antifa, throwing bricks through, burning down buildings, attacking police officers. I mean, we're talking all of that, and yet they are not the number one threat to America. I mean, we're talking about people who have said they fundamentally want to tear down our criminal justice system, our education system. They want to dismantle the family, and they want to destroy our entire economy and our way of life.
Craig, the only videos that matter. Yeah. I'm sorry. The only videos that matter are people that took a tour of the Capitol on January 6th. That's it. That's the only videos they're worried about.
Unguided tour?
Yep. The unguided tours.
Unplanned tour of the Capitol.
Yep.
Well, that thought be the way that it be. All right, folks. Well, hey, we have reached that time, and I've pretty much read most all of the comments to you, Mike, and I got to tell you, there are two that stand out. One of which, well, I'm just going to say it. I honestly believe the best comment was the last one. The last one that we read. Always the tool. Always been the tool. A fool, not the tool.
And who was that? Who said that? I like it. No, it's great.
That was actually from David Wilcox. David,
Wilcox.
I do not know if you are on Facebook because you're on YouTube, but you're going to need to contact us. You can actually, if you want to, you can actually go ahead and email me. You can email me at craig@usmediagroup.net. Email us with your information. We'll reach out to you and make sure that you get your winnings.
Yeah. Congratulations to David Winner Wilcox. There you go. Just like that.
Excellent, folks. We appreciate you guys tuning in. But here's the deal, folks. We need you to help us spread the word. We need you to like. We need you to subscribe, and we need you to share. All right? We need you to tell folks about The Rundown, 2A News with conservative views. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're hoping to be up soon on Rumble and Parler. We've been talking about doing a podcast, taking these audios and converting them over into podcasts. We'll probably start off by doing some past ones and then eventually get caught up to modern day. But folks, if we're going to do this, guess what? We need your help. We need your support. We also need you to visit our sponsors, Grid Defense and Gorilla Machining.
There they are, Grid Defense, Gorilla Machining. Check us out. Again, the podcasts are coming. One of those new sites that's coming, Craig, I had to look it up. I thought it was something different than it was. And I'm glad I was wrong about what it was. So,
No, you cannot find us on Pornhub.
It was very similar. It was one of those names that you said. I don't want to give credit to the other one, but you said it the other day, and I was like, "What are we going to?
Yeah,
going to be on where?"
I just some of y'all out there. Well, look, we are a conservative show. We do try to consider ourselves to be a somewhat of a family show.
That's right.
But yeah, no. That stuff is a no.
A dysfunctional family show.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, folks. Hey, you guys enjoy your weekend. We will see you again on Manic Monday.
See you on Manic Monday. Congratulations to David Winner Wilcox. Like, share, subscribe, and have a safe weekend. And a good Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, all. Holla.